over.
At the end of the last video, I left you with a list of the things that we liked and what could be improved in the car. And we're going to finish up just with talking about a few of these highlighted here on the screen. So let's get straight back into the car.
Now, one comment that Julie did have about the interior was...
Oh, right. That the finishings or whatever these things are called.
The hard plastics.
The hard plastics are rather cheap looking and feeling. And I realize you can't expect it to be high-end because it's not a high-end car.
But it was $45,000. Actually, it was closer to $50,000 when you factor everything in. But it's $25,000 car quality. And it's not as good a quality as a Toyota or a Honda at the same price. Personally, the hard plastics, I thought I was going to hate, but they're not as bad as I thought they were going to be. Yeah, it's not soft touch, but I suppose you get used to it. But my main gripe is that if you buy the IC version of this car, the internal combustion version, it's 25 or 30,000. For the electric car, I think the list price was 46,000 for this. I mean, this was the fully equipped, everything in it, which we really didn't want everything, but it was the only one we could get. And the less said about the colour, the better. But it was $45,000 or $46,000. It's not a $46,000 car, is it? She's on her phone now.
As opposed to what?
As opposed to the internal combustion version, which is $25,000.
Oh, I didn't realize there was such a big difference.
Yeah, for the same car. Now you do get a $7,500 tax credit from the federal government, which is one of the major reasons for buying this car at the moment, because Tesla has expired. Now, I haven't driven a Model Y, so I can't make the comparison, but I still think that this is better value for money. The range probably isn't quite as good. Quality, I'm not hearing good things about the Model Y, more or less in line with the Model 3. It sounds like they're slapped together, but that will improve over time. So would I buy this car again if I was in the market for a new car? Yes, I would definitely buy this car again. I think it's fantastic. It's an indication of how good this car is that I've got a choice of several cars to drive, and given the choice, I will take this one. I just don't get given the choice that often. Not allowed.
Well, because I only have one. That's why. Some of us can do with just a car.
No, but you'd like another one.
Not a fleet.
A fleet. You'd like a blue car.
Yeah.
She wants a blue car. I'm going to get her a blue car.
I've wanted a blue car forever.
Well, I'll get you a blue car. Just haven't decided what it's going to be yet. The only thing is, we've had this car for 6 months, and already there are alternatives coming to market. And each alternative that comes to market has the benefit of additional time. So improvements in battery technology, just improvements in the general EV experience. So when you look at some of the cars that either are out or are coming out, like the Polestar 2, the ID3, which isn't available yet in the States, I don't think. The one that I am really interested in, that if it had been available I probably would have bought over this, even though it's a little more expensive, is the Mach-E. That looks like it's a great car. And there are more and more cars coming in at a reasonable price point, I hope. But for the time being, this was, to my mind, the car to buy. The only downside is that in 3 or 4 years, if we want to change this car, it's not going to be worth anything, because technology will have moved on. And there will be cheaper cars with better quality interiors and longer range available on the market. So I think the second-hand market for these cars in a couple of years is going to be very poor. But that's the price you pay for being an early adopter. When we got this car and I signed up for Bluelink, which is Hyundai's online service, I immediately got a message in the app saying that it needed a software update for the, I think it's the BMU or the BMS, the high voltage battery management system. How about that? And I didn't feel that it was very pressing. It wasn't a recall, it was just an advisory. But then a couple of weeks ago, I got an email from Hyundai saying there's a recall on certain vehicles. Ours was one of the vehicles built within certain dates, because there was a problem with some of the battery cells and there was a danger that the car was going to catch fire. And it even advised not parking indoors or near any structures. So I'd actually been putting off reaching out to the dealerships here because I wasn't sure if the dealerships would be able to service the car, because it's not sold in Arizona. So that was a little bit of a concern. But seeing as we got this recall notice, I called Hyundai North Scottsdale, Earnhardt Hyundai, and spoke to them about it. And they said, yeah, we've got a certified technician who can work on your car. They'd never seen one before, so they were quite happy to have it in. And they fixed it. They did a software update. They said as part of the software update, it runs a check on all of the battery cells, and they said everything was fine. My car was not going to combust, and we were on our way. So that was a very good experience, and I was very happy to learn that should we need this car servicing, which I really don't think that you're going to need very much, that they were there and they were very happy to help us with it. One question I did ask them while we were there was, why can you not connect this car to Wi-Fi? Because if you look at all the Bluelink literature, it says you can connect the car to Wi-Fi so that it can communicate rather than using the cell service. And I think the Ioniq is able to do that. And they said they didn't know, but they checked for me and they said, well, it's just not available yet on this car. It's a future upgrade, which I just do not get. Why do you have a system which has the capability to communicate via Wi-Fi and presumably got the hardware to communicate by Wi-Fi, and then you don't make it available? And this leads me on to the biggest problem with this car. It's the app. It's dreadful. It's the worst piece of crap programming that I've seen in a long time. If you ask to do remote things like heat up the vehicle or cool down the vehicle, it tells you that it was unsuccessful, but it's actually doing it, and then 10 minutes later it will tell you that it's processed, and it's just not consistent. It's awful, and it doesn't update the status of the vehicle automatically. You have to do that manually. You can't change the presets. Even though you're supposed to be able to, I found it very, very difficult to do anything other than the set presets for heating and cooling. The range that it shows you is a lie, because it shows you the range assuming that you're going to run in Eco Plus, which nobody in their right mind would ever do. because it doesn't let you use the heating and ventilation system, and it limits your speed to whatever is set in the car. You can change that, but it currently is set to 60 miles an hour, so nobody's going to do that. So why don't they show the range based on whatever the current settings are in the car? It'd be simple to do. It's communicating with the car. And then, of course, what's going to happen with this whole Bluelink system once the 3G system closes down? This car, I don't think, is going to be able to communicate with the mothership. The other frustration with this is that if, like the experience we just had, to get a software update on the car, you have to take it into the dealership. Well, Tesla have managed to do that over the air, so why can't we? The technology is all there. Hopefully that's something that they can improve in the future. I'm not sure it's anything that they'll be able to do on this car. This car came with free service for 3 years, and other than a car wash, I can't really see what that's going to be. Like brake pad usage is virtually zero because it's using regenerative braking all the time. Now, they did tell us that it was due for another service in another month, and I said, well, what are you going to do, change the oil? And he said, no, it's due for a tire rotation, which I think we'll skip. There's no real reason to take this car in to the dealership. Sorry, I just have to get back up to warp speed. We were behind a very slow truck, and there was a fast closing, very large SUV behind us. So we engaged warp speed.
Yeah, it felt like it.
And it sounded like it too. Did you hear that? It was like a spaceship taking off. Now, one thing that Max, my son, said is that he doesn't like riding in this car. He said he didn't like it as a passenger because it was all herky-jerky. And that's because we have it permanently set on level 3 regeneration. Actually, we have it set on auto regeneration. So as soon as you take your foot off the accelerator pedal, the car slows down. And I think as a passenger, that can be a little bit unnerving. As a driver, you really don't notice it that much, and you get used to it very quickly. But he did like the noise it makes when you accelerate. He's the internet generation. It hums. It hums and beeps at the same time when it's backing up. But I did notice we have friends who have a Porsche Taycan that makes more noise than this does.
I know that it depends on, as you coin it, how aggressively you drive or not.
She's very aggressive.
But when I drive the sensor, what's it called, the car in front of you detector sensor, is it consistent?
The proximity thingy. Well, that's because you drive the accelerator pedal like it's an on-off switch.
My car.
And that thing. Also, it tells you need to take a rest. I think it.
Oh, Did you say that? That's the weirdest thing. Every so often, what I think is completely random, I hear a beep, and on the display next to the odometer, there's a little coffee cup with the message that says, maybe you should take a break.
And that's even if you've been driving the car for 5 minutes.
Completely random.
I think it thinks you're stressed. It never says that to me.
It happened when Max was in the car.
Was he driving it?
No.
So you were driving
drive the car.
So you were driving it.
I know I was driving it.
Well, there you go then. It's telling you you're stressed. It's telling you need to relax a bit.
I think it was after cardio. Well, it must have been after cardio. That was the only time he was in the car with me, without you. Why it would have said that for the 5-minute ride between the club and the farmer's market, I don't know. Maybe we need to
figure out why it's doing that, how it figures that out.
Yeah, I would like to know that.
Because maybe it's a warning sign for you
Of what? I should drink coffee?
that you should stop and smell the roses.
If there's anybody who's more zen, it's me.
It's never told me to take a break, even when I drove it for 4 hours straight.
Maybe you just hadn't noticed it.
No, I would notice that. I would notice if the car was telling me to take a break.
Well, don't tell Julie this, but I looked into it, and apparently the lane keep assist monitors where you are in the lane, and if it thinks you're driving erratically, it figures out you're tired and tells you to take a rest. So it thinks Julie drives erratically. I'm not telling her, you can.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this. If you did, give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us your comments below. And we'll see you next time. Cheers. Are you going to say cheers?